Alright, so this is going to contain some spoilers for Season 8 of The Walking Dead. So, ever since Gabriel started showing signs of illness when he was thrown into the Savior's prison box, there's been this theory going around that Gabriel has radiation poisoning. Now, I see some problems with this theory just from the premise alone, but let's talk about it for a bit. So, Gabriel and Negan were trapped in an RV after Rick's assault on the sanctuary a little bit earlier in the season, and while they were trapped, Gabriel and Negan started having these confessions, which led into some really interesting backstory for Negan and his history with Lucille. During their escape, Negan and Gabriel made use of walker guts to disguise themselves as Rick and his group did in earlier seasons. This only works temporarily, so they do actually get attacked in the crowd. This is where the theory says Gabriel got poisoned. That some walker Gabriel came into contact did the job. Gabriel did trip, after all, in that scene. Of course, radiation poisoning doesn't work that way. It's something that builds up slowly over time, or it can happen very fast from high exposure. But repeatedly throughout Season 8, characters have been mentioning that the Sanctuary is a chemical plant, or at least formerly was one. And that's the primary stake in which this theory was created from. It doesn't necessarily mean it has to be radiation. It could be any number of chemicals that could leach into someone's skin on contact. Another thing we have to bear in mind is that in order for this theory to work, the show doesn't have to accurately represent radiation poisoning, since The Walking Dead isn't really about staying 100% in line with science. It has an emphasis on story instead of on people.
A person's life, experiences, memories, it's everything. Somewhere in all that organic wiring, all those ripples of light, is you.
Robert Kirkman has said that he doesn't want to give the proper explanation for what caused the walkers, for instance, for the sole reason that it would take away from the show and make it more of a classical zombie movie, which does make sense even if that's kind of frustrating. Now, since Gabriel and Negan probably use the same walkers for the source of the guts, I don't see any good reason as to why Negan wouldn't be showing any symptoms or any kind of form of illness. I mean, perhaps Gabriel got the sickness from the prison box, but Sasha would have been showing some signs of it. If you look at the symptoms Gabriel actually has, it actually falls in line with the classical symptoms of not a zombie virus, but the walker virus. For the later half of Season 8, we've seen Gabriel's eyesight slowly deteriorate in a very, very perspective-driven form, to the point where Dr. Carson, as they tried to make their escape, he basically had to act as Gabriel's eyes during the entire thing, after they escaped from Sanctuary with Eugene's help when he decided to have a change of heart. It's hard to understand exactly what Gabriel's purpose in Season 8 has been. In the Walking Dead universe, it's not uncommon for people to have basically no storyline, like main characters. But those characters generally have very little screen time. But that's not the case with Gabriel. Gabriel has had many scenes, like being forced into the prison box, Negan and Gabriel scene, and ultimately being cause of Dr. Carson's death. The fact that Eugene helped Gabriel escape, I mean, that in itself is interesting because it does kind of show that the Eugene character can still be redeemed. That he hasn't completely abandoned Rick's group, that he might actually do something near the season's end. With Gabriel being back at the Sanctuary after his failed escape attempt, I imagine him and Eugene are going to do something important. Gabriel's entire purpose is going to be to try to convince Eugene to maybe join the war, or to come back with him. After all, he could have easily escaped with Gabriel and Dr. Carson earlier on. But as I said, Gabriel got caught, so his entire story arc is literally a circle. His only accomplishment this season has been getting Dr. Carson killed, and possibly having his faith shaken yet again after it got built up. So there's also this possibility that instead of radiation from a contaminated walker, it's something a lot more simple. It's something that's in line with the only disease The Walking Dead has ever really explored, the walker virus, if that's what it's called. Maybe the walker virus can still affect people to different degrees depending on how you are exposed to it, possibly. Like, getting bitten will definitely kill you. There's a ton of bacteria inside their mouths, I suppose. But covering yourself in walker guts can possibly still infect you in some way and get you pretty sick. It would explain some of the symptoms Gabriel is experiencing, although it's never been the case that eyesight has been lost. I kind of hope that this doesn't turn out to be the case. I mean, how can a virus affect you a little bit? If you're infected with a virus, like imagine HIV, you don't get a little bit of HIV, you get all of it. That's how viruses work. Like, to explain the symptoms a bit, in the recent episodes actually, the episode we just watched, Negan has been making threats saying that they hope the people they hurt are actually going to sweat themselves to death. That was his quote, sweat themselves, because that's the most visible symptom we've ever seen on The Walking Dead of someone being infected, like Tyrese. And Gabriel has been profusely sweating for the entirety of the later half of this season, so he could be infected by bacteria, which could lead to his downfall. But I don't think it's radiation that's causing the problem. The show has never really dealt with any kind of diseases by name, any specific diseases that they had post or pre-apocalypse. Only the things that you get when you're bitten, the very general infection. There has been literally no other diseases. I don't think anyone in a TV show has ever shown signs of something trivial, like the seasonal flu. If AMC actually opens the door to possibilities that people can get sick from walkers in a less direct way, we have seen like fungus walkers, for instance, or walkers that emerge from sewer systems. Those can clearly get you infected, but situations where a virus can actually live in a walker and be transmitted from walker to human, that is a concept that's so fundamental that they would need to begin disposing of bodies in very unique ways, like burning them or burying them. You can't just slice off a walker's head and be done with it, especially if it's close to your home base, like Alexandria. And I really don't think AMC wants to do that. It was never really focused in the comics, so it's very strange that the showrunners are doing this with Gabriel. I really do hope that this is explained before the season ends. I want to know why Gabriel's sick like this, and basically what it's ultimately going to lead to. Will he die from the sickness, or will he sacrifice himself because the sickness is an actual infection that might kill him? But I don't think this theory has much merit. AMC hasn't shown any kind of radiation sort of thing in this story, and I just don't see the showrunners using this idea for something like The Walking Dead. If Gabriel was poisoned in this manner, it would open up a whole host of problems that the Saviors would have to deal with. It just seems very unlikely. But what do you think Gabriel's illness is? I honestly think he's going to die from a general infection. He might not even survive this season. If you like this video, make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.